Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar. We are today looking at assessment and feedback within G Suite, and we're going to be joined by some really great guests talking about G Suite and also showing us how we can do that. Before we get started, just to shout out some of the great board games that we had coming in the question today. I absolutely love board games. I picked one, but actually I love every single one that everyone has commented on, and there's some that I don't know very well, so definitely going to have a look at those, particularly whilst we've got nothing better to do with our time than to play board games. So hopefully you're enjoying the incredible weather today and also playing a board game tonight. So as I said, we're joined today by some great speakers. So I'm Kiri, I am the National Accounts Manager in the Google for Education team, and I'm joined today by Beth, who is a Google certified trainer with our professional development partner Aspire to Be. And then we're also joined by Adam and Bryn, who are going to be sharing their school story today about how they're using G Suite and specifically around now on distance learning, and we'll share a little bit on assessment and feedback as well. So over to me to talk to you about Google for Education and the resources available to you if you're getting started. So for those of you that are new to G Suite for Education, you may not know already, but we have basically a productivity suite plus much more included in G Suite for Education. Things like Google Docs and Sheets and Forms and Classroom and Meet, all of these things that you basically have access to for free. So the great thing about them and the reason that they're so widely used is because they're easy to use, they're intuitive, you can scale them really easily and quickly, so you can add more users as quickly as you get them. They're built for collaboration, so you can work on things live, and they're secure by design. And for those of you that are brand new, we do have a new kind of temporary hub, which is to support. My dog is playing with Spring right now in the room. The joys of working from home, so apologies if you can hear him being naughty. We have a Teach from Home hub, which basically are kind of shortcuts to trainings on how to get started with some of the tools. So you'll see from the picture there, things like starting a video call with your class and how you might do that on Google Meet. So really good resource, kind of quick snippets of how to get started with G Suite for Education. We also have lots more resources away from that as well. So we have a blog which basically shows you all the new features that we're introducing. And for those of you that are using Google Meet regularly, you'll see that we've had a ton of new features come in over the past few weeks based on feedback from you guys that are using it. And there's this blog here that gives you tips and tricks on how to use them, particularly around distance learning, but also with up-to-date features. We also have a teacher centre, and this is a place where you can find lots and lots of resources on self-guided training. So if there's anything that you learn about today that you want to kind of go and dive a little bit deeper on, please head over to the teacher centre, because that's definitely the place to do that. And we've actually got something specifically at the moment on distance learning, so a really good resource for you to go and check out. And as you'll know, because you're signed up and you're here today, we do have this UK webinar series, and this is basically targeted webinars about specific things. So today, obviously, we're doing assessment and feedback, but we've done them on Google Drive, on the admin console, and these are specifically related to UK schools, and the stories that we hear are from schools across the UK. So hopefully a little bit more relevant to you guys tuning in. And just to kind of draw your attention back to the Teacher Centre, as I said, it's a great resource for you, for those that are kind of learning to get up and running with some of the tools. But also if you're wanting to do your educator certificates, your level 1 or your level 2, go and check this out. And the great thing about the Teacher Centre is we've actually just relaunched it last week, and we've introduced these product guides that are specific to these tools. So there's now product guides on Expeditions, for example. So if you haven't looked at Expeditions, definitely recommend going to check that out. And I know that the Aspire to Be team have created some content around Expeditions on one of the later webinars, so make sure that you have a look for that. And just one thing to call out, and this is something new to the webinar series that I've been talking about. So those of you that have been listening to me doing that quite a while, this is something brand new. So we have been working in collaboration with Microsoft and the DfE, and there's now an opportunity for schools who don't currently have G Suite to sign up and basically have all of that process paid for by the government. And so the Department for Education have this launched, and you can go and sign up by going to covid19.thekeysupport.com, and that'll talk you through around what are the requirements and how you can utilize this service. Please pass it along. It's really, really beneficial for schools who aren't using cloud tools right now and are kind of looking at a really quick way to get started. And this is more around kind of the technical setup and getting your users provisioned so that you can get up and running with the tools. The dog, seriously. Okay, with that, I'm going to go on mute and go and tell the dog off for being so naughty. I'm going to pass over to Beth, who's waiting here and is going to do us our hands-on with G Suite about assessment and feedback. Thank
Beth. You, Kiri. Yeah, so it's going to be a good session today, guys. We're going to be looking at assessment and feedback using different tools within G Suite. What I'm going to do is show you some kind of top tips that I used in the classroom, things that you can do as a teacher, but that you can actually then model and your students can do them, which will make the kind of peer assessment side of things just so much more effective. So I'm going to get started with some different ways of giving you feedback. And the first thing I'm going to do is head to Google Classroom. And if you were in the last webinar, this is the same classroom that I was using, okay? And you will know that I have been posting learning journals. So I posted learning journal week 1 and then learning journal week 2, okay? So if I go up to classwork here, you can see my kind of assignments here. Now I'm going to click learning journal week 2. And you can see here, one person has handed it in and one person has been assigned it. So I'm going to click where it says handed in. And I just want to show you this view, okay? So this is your dashboard here. You can see that I've not assigned points yet. It's a little bit confusing because I've assigned it to my other account for the purpose of this demo. But if I click on it now, it will open in a new tab. And this is the view that you'll get in Classroom, okay? And there's one feature that I need to bring your attention to straight away. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was teaching, I used to write certain comments over and over again. Check your punctuation. Does this spelling look correct? And so on. Could you think of a different adjective for that? So this is where this feature here is going to be your best friend. Okay, if I hover over it, you can see it says comment bank. So if I click on comment bank, bear in mind, I have assigned the same assignment to obviously my class of 30. So you're likely going to be saying the same comments for certain parts of it. So you get this option on the right here, add to bank. You'll see this is a new account, so my comment bank is empty. If I click add to bank, okay, I can add some comments. Now here, I would suggest you use general comments that you use all the time. So I'm just going to say here, could you check this punctuation? Oh, check my spelling there, please. This looks fantastic. Or because we're in Wales, syniad da. Okay, good idea. So I put them on separate lines and then I can click add. And you'll see here, it's added these 3 comments into my comment bank. So as I go through to mark this work now, for example, okay, I could look here. I could say, for example, this looks fantastic. So I would just highlight where I wanted the comment to go, okay? You can either then right click and you get comment as an option, or you will get it up in the toolbar here. Now my screen is a little bit expanded at the minute, so let me just zoom out. There we are. So if I highlight here and then I click comment, this is where the comment bank comes in. If you put a hashtag in, your comment bank will then come as a drop down into the comments, which makes marking a lot quicker. So I could just say, this looks fantastic, and then comment. Okay, now you've got some options. You can mark from within the classroom window, and it makes it really easy because you can skip then to the next student. You can see it's missing at the minute because he hasn't submitted it. You can also access everything that's created through an assignment in your classroom via your Drive. And actually, as a teacher, I just prefer to do it this way. So let me show you that. I'm going to my Drive. If I go to Classroom and then Miss Evans's class and Learning Journal Week 2, you can see here the 2 that have been open. So this was the one I was working on. So if I click to open it now, it just opens it in a fuller window. And for the purpose of this demo, gives me a bit more space to show you guys what I want to show you. So I'm going to show you some different ways of leaving feedback for your students here. Now, the simplest way, okay, is obviously a comment like we've just done, but that was from Comment Bank. What you might want to do as well is actually tag your learner in a comment. And this is great because it means they'll be notified and you can also give them an action item, okay? So I might say here and highlight this text here and go to my comment, okay? And if you use an @ okay, or you can use a plus, okay, it's up to you. So I'm going to use my other account that I know I shared this with, so Beth Trainer, so I'm going to tag myself in it. Could you let me know how you got on with this, please? Okay, then you get a tick box here. So assign to Beth Evans, this is really handy. So if I tick that, it means the person will be notified and they're then responsible for resolving it, so giving it a little tick, okay? So if I'm going to assign that now, so that's a really handy one first of all. The next thing that I'd like to show you here is one of my favorite features. Now, this is a new thing recently to slides, okay? If you go to the Insert menu, you've got Insert Audio. Now, there's a small issue with this at the moment, and I'll tell you why now. You do not get the option to record straight into slides. However, Google are very, very responsive. So if enough of us request that we would like for audio to be recordable in slides, I'm sure they would develop that feature. So you need to have your audio file saved to your drive. So I'm going to show you a little workaround for the time being. So I've got this student here. They've obviously done not all of the activity because I've asked them, they filled in the meaning column, but they haven't actually completed this third column. So I just would like to leave them a voice note, kind of asking them why. So I'm going to show you a website that I find really useful, and I've actually bookmarked it here so you can see it. And it's called onlinevoicerecorder.com. Okay. And it's super simple. Okay. Click the button to start recording. So this was Lizzie's work, and I'm just wondering why she hasn't completed this activity. Hi, Lizzie. I'm just wondering why you didn't complete this activity. Could you just let me know? Thank you. Okay, so there's my recording. If I hit save, now I'm working on a MacBook, okay, so it will do this when I show you, and it comes down here. Oh, sorry, there we are. But if you're on a Chromebook, it will save into your downloads. You can actually change the settings as well and have it saved straight to your drive. I'm on a Mac, so I can just pick up that recording and drag it up onto my Drive tab, okay? Now, I could just drop it there, and let me show you that. And it says then it's uploaded, and I've got my file here. I'm a control freak, so I would have to rename that. So just right-click here, okay? And you're going to click Rename. And I'm just going to put that Lizzie FB, Lizzie Feedback. Okay. Now, I can go back into my learning journal here. I can click Insert Audio. And you'll see Lizzie has been recorded here. Oh, sorry, that one. And then select. And it will insert the audio for you onto the slide. Now, this is really, really useful. Certainly in times of remote learning, it's really nice just to hear a voice or the voice of your teacher or your students. You can then resize the icon, okay? And what we used to do in my school, it was part of our marking policy. So if we were leaving feedback as the teacher, we would go down to recolor and we would use an agreed color, all staff. So the kids knew that if they saw kind of a sound icon of a certain color, they knew that was from a teacher, and the reply would be in the same color from the kids then. So if I hover over this, and I'll close this little window here, you can see you get your preview bar. And if I play it, okay, so you get the idea. And then your pupil could, well, they could use the same process and they could respond to you and let you know, or they could tag you in a comment. Okay, so that's just a nice alternative to kind of typed comments. I'm just going to go down to this one next. So we've done kind of a text comment. Now we've looked at audio comments, and we're going to go back to one of my other favorite tools, which is Screencastify. So it's a nice little extension, and you might want to record some video feedback. So look at this child here. I'm absolutely chuffed. It's been weeks and they finally understood ratio. So I might want to leave them a little video comment. So I'm going to click the Screencastify extension. And you get some options here. So browser tab, desktop, webcam only, and so on. You also get the option, which is quite nice, to embed your webcam. So I'll show you this in just a second, but I'm actually going to go webcam only because I just want to send them a video, and I'll click record. Well done, Lizzie. I'm so chuffed that you finally understood ratio. That's what you get when you persevere. Great job. Okay, so I've recorded my video now, and you'll see that it will open up into a new tab. Screencastify does this automatically when it records. So there's my little video, and I'm going to pause it there. You get the options here to copy shareable link, which is what I'm going to do now. But I just wanted to show this one to you as well, share to classroom. So this is a really nice feature in Screencastify. If you really quickly wanted to record a bit of feedback about a group project or just a message for your class in general, you will get the option to share that straight to your classroom. So it's really efficient, really slick. I'm going to copy the shareable link, and then I'm just going to head back into the learning journal. And on this piece of work here, I'm going to insert a comment, and then I can just paste the link that I just copied and comment. And if you've obviously discussed this with your students and they're aware that if there's a link, they need to click it and so on, they will then be able to click that and view the video that I have just recorded for them. So that's a really, really nice, this will say we're processing, it doesn't take long, it's a few minutes, okay? But it's a really nice way to give kind of personalized feedback, certainly in these times of remote working. So the next thing then that I would like to show you is another thing in Screencastify. And if you'll remember from the last webinar, I asked them to complete this well-being slide. So you can actually annotate the slides using Screencastify. So if I click here, okay, on the extension again, and then I've got show more options here. Now, if I show you this, you've got browser tab and desktop. So I'm just going to go for, let's see, browser tab. Okay. I'm going to embed my webcam so that I'll be kind of in a little picture on the bottom. And then you've got this option here. It says show drawing tools. Okay. You definitely want that. So if you click record, and hopefully my internet will catch up with me. In a moment, you will get some tools that appear. So you'll see my webcam is embedding down here. And I want to show you these tools over here. You get a pen, which is really cool, and you can choose the color. Okay, so I'll choose a nice kind of pink. And you can say things like this. Oh my goodness, that pizza looks incredible. I'm so glad you had a great time with your dad. And look at this. You can now do figures of 8 on your bike. Well, that's going to come in really handy when we do cycling proficiency next term. Then you would just go back to the extension and you would click stop. There we are. And just like before, it will open in a new tab and it will save that for you. So I just wanted to show you that there are some other tools from within Screencastify, and you'll see the preview playback here. And then in a minute, you'll see that I draw around the pizza, and obviously the sound would be on it. And you can see here. So really nice, in case you want to annotate a piece of work that one of your students has done, it's a great way to do it. So I'm going to pause that again and just repeat that process. So copy the shareable link and then go back to my learning journal. And I might just comment on the entire slide there and then paste that link in and comment. So those are just some different ways. We've done text feedback, we've done audio, and now we've done some visual feedback as well, okay? Just as a sideline, it's a really great tool, Screencastify, to get kids to explain their thinking and their reasoning. We used to use it as well if we did Venn diagrams. So I would say on a slide, get the kids to complete a Venn diagram in maths, and then they would have to film themselves using the tools in Screencastify to actually explain why they'd put certain numbers in certain places. So that was really, really nice to see them do that. So those are some tools that you can use across docs and sheets and slides. And then I want to bring your attention to one of my favorite Google tools. And I'm going to go back to my Drive to do this for you. So if we go to Drive, there is a tool called Google Forms. Now, some of you may be really familiar with this. I can't even begin to tell you the different amounts of things that you can do with Google Forms. It just blows my mind. So I'm going to show you two kind of ways that you can use it for assessment. We've looked at kind of giving feedback, But now I kind of want to focus on assessment. So I'm going to open this one first of all. And I've just made these quickly for you to see them, okay? Now, often you can create a general feedback form. So you'll see that this is just says generally activity feedback, okay? And you've got which activities did you complete? How easy or difficult did you find this week's activity? And then some long answer text. So describe the things you found easy and why, and the things you found tricky and why. Now, this is a really nice tool for kind of the end of a lesson, for you as a teacher to be able to go in and have a look and say, oh, actually, yeah, that person needs a little bit more help with that, or nope, they're absolutely fine. And then I wanted to show you a second example. Okay, so this is kind of a more general example, but if you wanted to check specific knowledge, this would be another way to do it. And I'm just going to go into this one in a little bit more detail so that you can kind of get your teeth into it. So I was a year 5 teacher and we did the gunpowder plot. Okay, so I put some basic questions in. You can see here different types, and then I'm going to show you some different things. The great thing about forms is it will save you time with marking. You can actually give students instant feedback because you can change the settings, which I'll show you in a moment, to give them instant feedback. And also it allows you as the teacher to really quickly analyze the results of your forms so that you can quickly identify, this group need a bit more on this group probably need a bit more on this, and it will inform your future planning. So not only will it allow you to kind of challenge the kids who need it, but also support the kids who need it as well. So let me show you this. At the minute, this is just a standard kind of forms. But if I wanted to give the kids instant feedback, I would need to change it. So you're going to need to look at these tools up here. And I want you to click the cog, okay? In here are all your different settings. You've got general, and then presentation, and then quizzes. Now, I want you to go to quizzes when you make a quiz, because you can make it a quiz, and this will give you some other options here. Now, if you were doing this in the classroom, this is a really lovely option. Locked mode on Chromebooks. So basically, they can't open any other tabs while they're doing the quiz. So that's really, really nice, and it works with the managed Chromebooks. If you're using them in your school, you could check that. Obviously, we're learning remotely right now. Now, this is a really good option here. Release mark immediately after each submission or later after manual review. So this is just kind of a pop quiz for my class. So I put immediately after each submission. And then you have the control to say what each person will see. So can they see missed questions, correct answers, and point values? And I'm happy for them to see all of those, okay? There are some other options back here. Now, I've ticked this one, collect email addresses, because I know that my class weren't the best at putting their names on things. So I'm going to tick that one so that I know who has submitted. Then you can restrict it, okay? And then you've got some other options here. Now, respondents can edit after submitting or see the summary charts and responses. Typically, I leave those blank. You know, if I'm sending out a form, I want them to be able to just complete it so that then I can analyze it. But I can definitely see when you might want to use that. So just be aware that they're there for you. So we've made it a quiz, and I'm going to hit save. Then when we scroll down a little bit, you'll see if I hover over each question, you get this kind of floating toolbar. Now, if you just hover your mouse over each one, you will get lots of different options, okay? Add image, add video, add section, add question, and so on. You can actually import questions now, which is a really nice feature. So I've just inserted a video here, and essentially what I'm asking them to do is a bit of comprehension. Then if I scroll down and show you the next question, it says, where was the girl at the start of the video? And I've made this a drop-down question, Tower Bridge, Tower of London, and London Bridge. And you'll see that because I've made it a quiz now, I get this answer key, okay? So if you click answer key here, you get kind of assigned points here, so I can give it different points. And I'm going to say she was here, the Tower of London, okay? So I'm choosing the correct answer now, and it gives it a tick. And I'm going to say that if they answer this correctly, they get 1 point. And I could add some feedback, which is really nice here, okay? So if you imagine, this one's just about the gunpowder plot, but you could be kind of a GCSE science teacher, you could be an RE teacher, anything like that. You can give them extra information. So you can actually give them extra information with incorrect answers, and correct answers, okay? So a different message will pop up depending on whether they give the correct or incorrect answer. And then just because Google is obviously, personal opinion is so fantastic, they give you extra options to include links and videos. So a little bit more. If you were that GCSE chemistry teacher and you were just doing a knowledge check for your students, this would be great. If they've got the incorrect answer, you could pop in a video that just explains the correct answer for them, okay? So I'll leave that as it is for the minute, and then I will scroll down. Now we've got here, you can see at the minute, my quiz looks a little bit dry. Apart from the kind of video, it looks a little bit dry. If you click into the question that you want to edit, if I hover here, do you see that a little symbol appears? So I can actually add an image into there. And you've got upload, camera, photos, Google Drive, or Google image search. Okay, so I could type in gunpowder plot. And that one looks like a good one. And then insert. And give it a second, and it will load the image into the question. So again, it's just to kind of give your kids that visual prompting and make it a little bit more interesting. So you can see now, under the question, Guy Fawkes lived over, and then you've got your options. Once again, I would have to click into answer key, okay? And I've just realized by my own question that actually all of those would be kind of roughly right. But anyway, for the purpose of this, I'll say 400 years, okay? I could add the answer in the feedback, and I could type in, for example, with the correct answer, yes, well done, the plot happened X amount of years ago, and then I would hit save, okay? Now, as with all things Google, you'll notice up here, all changes saved in Drive. So as you go through and make your changes, they will save automatically, okay? And then if we scroll down and click again, you've got the same again, answer key, okay? And you would select the right date, okay? And once you're happy with that, assign the point value and done. Now you'll notice one other thing. I've made all of my questions required. You don't have to do this, okay? By default, I think it's turned off, but actually, I think I'm asking them a question for a reason, because I want an answer. So I would just turn that one on. You've also got some other tools. If you were going to ask a series of questions that were very similar, you've got duplicate. So if I click duplicate, it will just duplicate the same question for me. Likewise, if you've duplicated and you think, actually, I don't want that, there's the little bin next to it. If you click that, it will delete the question and you get your prompt down there, item deleted. Okay, so that is simple kind of Google Forms, but that's more subject specific. And then just for the final kind of few minutes, I want to show you this. If you click responses, you'll see there's 0 responses yet. That's because I haven't shared it with any of my class, okay? So you've got options here to send it, and you could send to individual people if you wanted to. You've also got the option to share a link, so I could shorten that URL, and I can copy that, okay, copy. I could then head straight back into my classroom. Okay, I could go back to Miss Evans's class, and then I would go to classwork and create. And you've got some options here. Now, it could be a quiz assignment, okay? It could be an assignment. I'm just going to put it as an assignment here, okay? And I would just say here, gunpowder plot quiz. Please complete by Friday, okay? And then you could just copy that link straight in, okay? And they would be able to click on it. You can put a due date like we discussed in the last webinar. So I might say by next Friday because I'm feeling a little bit generous, and then assign. So that's kind of how to share it. Now, if I go back to my form, there we are, cross. I just want to show you this magic button because when I discovered this as a teacher, honestly, it blew my mind. So this is in the responses tab. So questions tab over here and then responses. Now, I don't have any responses at the minute, but you have this little green button and it's the sheets kind of symbol. And you'll notice it says here, create spreadsheet when I hover over it. If you click that, okay, this window will open, create a new spreadsheet, the gunpowder plot. I'm going to click create. And what this will do is it will create a sheet which actually has all of your questions. And as your students fill out the form, this sheet will auto-populate. So I cannot tell you how useful this is. We use this in so many different ways in school, practical ways as well, including, you know, school trips and things like that, but also assessment for learning. So that is absolutely gold. And the next thing that I'm always asked in training is, yeah, but Beth, where does that save to? So Google being Google, if I go back to my drive now, you'll see that I've got the original gunpowder plot form here, and the sheets that was created lives right next to it. So if I was going to kind of organize my drive now, I would literally just new folder, and I could put, for example, assessment forms, create, and it's there. I could just highlight the ones that I wanted to move, click and hold and drag into assessment forms. And now they all live in that folder together. Okay, so that's just really handy to know. Now, the final cherry on top that I want to show with you, because I think it's a really overlooked tool, is this. It's all good and well setting up a form, but then you also, as a teacher, have to keep track of that form. So if you go to tools, there's a setting in here called notification rules. Now, obviously, it would depend for the type of survey or form that you were doing. But if you click notification rules, you get the option to be emailed either straight away or just daily with a summary when either a user submits a form or any changes are made. So if it was, for example, something that I did want to keep a track of, I could say, well, yeah, I want to be notified when a user submits a form. I don't want to be notified right away. I'll just have a daily digest email. And then I would hit save. So it says here, if form is submitted, then send digest. Yep, that's the rule, done. So because I am the creator of that, I will now get an email notification every time anybody submits it. So just to recap on that, we went back through our forms, our learning journal that we did last week. We looked at giving some text feedback. Okay, so just using commenting and tagging that. We then looked at giving some audio feedback, and that was using a really nice website called onlinevoicerecorder.com. You can see in the Omni box up here, really super simple to use, okay? And then we looked at giving some visual feedback, so filming ourselves with the annotation tools within Screencastify. So there's your feedback. And then the assessment for learning, we had a quick look at forms, looking at a more general feedback activity that you could just recycle for every feedback you do and just get the kids to specify the activity. And then we looked at some subject-specific feedback in the terms of a quiz, which is graded for you. So I hope that's been really helpful. And back to you, Kiri.
Thanks, everyone. I've caught the culprit of bed. He's been just gone back to sleep as soon as I stopped talking because, yeah.
He can't look us in the eye.
So this is yeah, he's only one, so he's still a bit puppy-like, hence the naughty behaviour. So someone asked to see him, so here he is. I'll let him go and cause mischief somewhere else. Thanks, Beth. That was really, really good, and I love all the different ways you showed to mark. And someone did ask a really good question about why would you use comments just in a document rather than in Classroom, right? Why would you give feedback?
Yeah.
And I think just kind of the simple answer is just do what works for you.
Yes.
Most people would use Classroom as their kind of intermediate. To be able to set work and collect the feedback and communicate with students. But there might also be times where you just, maybe you're working with a colleague and you just want to be able to give feedback to them on something or make a comment. So it's just good to know that those features are also built in within the tools, and you can do that on a Google Sheet, on a Google Slides, or on a Google Doc. So really good.
I always say in training, Google G Suite for Education is incredible, but there's always about 5 different ways to get to the same place. And honestly, although it may seem daunting at first, that is a real benefit because it's how it works for you. I personally, I don't know why, I don't like it when the screen is constrained. So I like to look at the slides as a whole, but that's just personal preference. So yeah, like you said, whatever works for you.
Yeah, awesome. And also we identified some of the features the couple of things that we looked at were the features built into Classroom and the marking view, and also a couple of things to think about as well is that you also have access to originality reports, which would allow a student to run their work up to 3 times through an originality checker, and basically it scans the whole of Google search for any plagiarism. So definitely one to look at. You can actually do that up to 3 different assignments in G Suite for Education. And then the other thing is the grade book. And again, like another thing that I think people don't really necessarily use that well, but we have recently just announced that we'll be doing integration between your MIS systems and the Google Classroom gradebook. So if you do use grades, then that's great. The other thing is rubrics. I know you didn't really touch on that, Beth, but rubrics is a great one if you have predefined criteria that you're actually marking the work against. And it's really great for the students to see what you're marking against. And also it just makes it really quick for you to say, yes, you've achieved it, or no, you haven't. So particularly maybe, I mean, I can still see how it would be really good for primary school students if you were doing like, you know, like vocabulary, for example. Of
course. Against the success criteria, it would be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And then other things like I used to teach in FE, for example. So for BTEC qualifications where you're given a pass, merit or distinction, you could do that using rubrics, because at the moment in grading, you can only give numbers. So rubrics allows you to do that in other ways, in letters or words. So yeah, just there's so many things to show, right? We only have a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So you did a great job.
I just wanted to show you some quick things that actually potentially you could model to your students and get them peer assessing as well, because those are the useful things. It's all good and well kind of looking at the theory, but it's when you're a teacher, it's all about practical application in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. Well, I think you covered it in so much detail that we didn't have many questions, which is awesome. And it's always a good sign, I think.
I'm sorry, guys. I hope not. But
so I think with that, we're going to pass over to Adam and Bryn, who are going to come and share their school story. So thanks so much, Beth. And we're going to bring in Bryn and Adam. Hi both. If you'd like to introduce yourself and then basically take it away, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, hi all. I'm Adam Raymond, so I'm the deputy head of Pencoed Primary School.
And I'm Bryn Markham Jones. I oversee the digital competency in the school and a Google certified trainer.
So I'm going to go through some of our kind of more contextual information, give you a little bit of background on the school and our journey to date, and I'm going to hand over to Bryn, who's going to go through some of the more Google specific aspects of our work and our journey, if you like. We're a large primary school in Bridgend. We're the largest primary school in the Bridgend borough. We are over 600 pupils on roll currently, and that includes 4 specialist learning resource bases as well. So we're a really diverse, happy school in the town of Pencoed, so right on the M4 corridor. We're an Alliance Hub school for the Central South Consortium. So we do lots of work kind of sharing best practice across the region. And we've been using G Suite for Education really successfully now for about 18 months. And on the next slide, Bryn, if you don't mind. It coincided really with our move to our new build in September 2018. Previously, we were a mishmash of buildings across 3 sites, and the new £11 million build, alongside a new ICT budget at the time, allowed us to really critically analyse, I suppose, where we were at with ICT and our hardware provision. So we had lots of big decisions to make with regards to kit, so laptops, iPads, and wider ICT hardware. And at that time, we felt we now needed a platform really to drive our practice and to develop a really consistent approach. We've got 28 teachers in total, and about the same number of teaching assistants. We're a really large staff body. So again, at that point, we made the decision, after lots of kind of research, if you like, to go with the Google model for our professional learning and likewise our curriculum input. So since then, we've been working alongside Aspire to Be really successfully. All staff trained, so in-depth training for all Key Stage 2 staff. Many of those have gone on to do their Level 1 exam, and we're now using Google Classroom particularly really consistently across Key Stage 2. I know Bryn's going to talk more about some of the wider kind of Google applications that we're using as staff, because as well as the kind of benefits to pupils, we've also really kind of embraced Google more generally as part of our staff organisation, things like timetabling, rotoring, sharing of planning, collaborative working, Google Calendar, Google Meets currently for our kind of remote learning stuff. So I know Bryn's going to go into more detail about that, but just some kind of more general points, of why we've gone for that model. Like I've already touched upon, that collaboration, the opportunity for staff to work and collaborate on documents together, looking at the reducing workload kind of agenda, something that we've been really strong on. Likewise, encouraging pupils to have a kind of critical eye on their own work, so enhanced opportunities for peer assessment within their own Google Classrooms. Forms, again, I've put pupil voice on the bullet point here on this slide, but actually we've used Google Forms for lots of things. Beth touched upon some examples there, but pupil voice, really incorporating their ideas into our curriculum, but likewise parental questionnaires, in-house staff questionnaires, tying into professional learning, audits with staff. So Google Forms has really kind of fed into our practice. And currently, up to this point where we're at the moment, it's obviously been hugely supportive and has been driving our remote learning in Key Stage 2. So we've got nigh on 300 pupils in Key Stage 2 who are all now using Google Classroom as we speak as the basis for their home learning. So I know Bryn's going to talk more about how that's going and give you some kind of practical examples of some of our work within Google Classroom. Next slide, please, Bryn. And I just wanted to touch upon this. I think in September 2018, it was an opportunity, really, with a new build, obviously curriculum for Wales in its kind of infancy, and likewise, lots of new kit. It was a real opportunity, really, for us to strip back our practice. And like I say, with a critical eye, we've been doing lots of stuff ICT related for years, and some successful, some not so. But we really wanted to create a new vision for our digital journey. So all stakeholders were involved, and you can see it on the screen, stepping into the future as confident, creative and collaborative digital explorers. So the pupils came up with a footprint, if you like, about what it meant to be a digital citizen at Pencoed, and really tying in all of that whilst using Google as our platform has really given us the basis to kind of develop ourselves both professionally, but likewise upskill our pupils. I know Bryn's going to talk more about how that looks in reality, but likewise I'll come back to that at the end of the presentation, because everything we do now moving forward with Curriculum for Wales and our overall school vision and our curriculum vision, what do we want for our children at Pencoed? The digital emphasis is right at the heart of that. So I know Bryn's going to go into more detail now. So I'll hand over to Bryn, but likewise I'll chip back in with reference to our vision throughout.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So with the G Suite, it's quite obvious that it's sort of taking two avenues. First being staff usage and the planning, the collaboration, and so forth in the back scene of it. And then the pupil usage. So there's sort of two separate avenues, and both sort of needed attention to make the process and the system work effectively. So obviously the staff require the training, but also then the pupils require the training and sort of the understanding of the tools in that. So with the staff training, like I say, a core group of teachers we've sort of identified, attended the detailed training by Aspire to Be. There's about 8 teachers who had this training. But at the same time, I was doing my own training at home as well. Kiri talked about the teacher centre. So I did all my training through the teacher centre, got my level 1 accreditation, level 2, and then my trainer sort of accreditation ran alongside Pencoed Primary's implementation as well. So it sort of worked quite well in that situation. So I kind of quickly recognised for the system to work fully and properly, that we needed somebody to take that clear responsibility for it. And once I started the training, I sort of saw the real benefits of the G Suite and how the tools and how it's set up and how it works in a school, especially when it comes to saving teachers' time. It's so key and so important. So, so the teachers sort of gain confidence in their phases. So lower key stage 2, upper key stage 2, upper foundation phase and lower foundation phase. So, and they work closely in teams and sort of developed each other's skills. And, and again, people took the responsibility to sort of lead in that. And before we knew it, everyone's confidence started growing, and the tools that they were using, etc., were growing and growing as well. So there's various ways after training. I did the drop-in sessions, lunchtimes after school, training videos. So when teachers can refer back to them, it's particularly helpful before the exam sort of time. Posters. There's one example there, feedback in classroom. So I create posters and I scatter them around the school. They're on the back of toilet doors, they're in classrooms and staff rooms. So it's sort of like subliminally training staff, and they sort of like might take an interest and think, oh, well, I'd like to learn a bit more about that. So, it's just this constant drip feeding of training, and that still continues even at the moment during the pandemic. That's, I'm able to share the videos, I'm able to share the sort of the ideas and work in that way. So once the teachers became accustomed with the tools, well, it's like then, well, how do these tools look in the classroom? So, in Wales, we're governed by the DCF, the Digital Competency Frameworks, and we've got the G Suite tool. So how do these G Suite tools help with the DCF? So I sort of sat down for, over a few weeks and sort of like dropped down, ideas, and just went through thinking, what sort of lessons can we do to meet the Digital Competency Framework using the Google tools? What I quickly realized was you did it very, very quickly. When you start using these tools and the collaboration tools, the creative tools, the digital awareness tools, the spreadsheets, the databases, all this side of thing, it was so simple with the G Suite model. And so once you start using these lessons, before we knew it, we were ticking those digital competency skills left, right, and centre without a problem. So a quick example here now. So, just some examples of what we do in using G Suite tools. So we've got one in the top left corner, that's Harry Potter. The children made stop motion animation, so in Google Slides. So created a little Quidditch battle between Harry and the Slytherin house. The bottom there, we've got a spreadsheet. So we're analysing data. It was a space module that we did with Year 5 and Year 6. Again, introducing the formulas, introducing the spreadsheet work, data analysis, graphing, all these sort of skills. The centre, we got the Instagram account. So Oggy Pullman from the film Wonder. So the children, the task was a emotive language task. So the children had to discuss how Oggy Pullman was feeling at various scenes of the film. So I thought, well, I have to teach emotive language, and I have to teach digital citizenship and responsible online use, etc. So the children created Oggy's Instagram account, sharing their feelings. Space app, Google Slides again. So we built a space information app using Google Slides. So all the planets are hyperlinked. So it was a whole class collaborative task. So each group were assigned a planet, and they had to create an information sheet on the planets, and they were all hyperlinked and etc. And then, so it sort of presented, the Year 6 children then presented that to the Year 2 pupils. And finally, coordinates. So this was done in a maths lesson. Again, just created a simple Google slide, gave various icons, coordinate work, children were able to quickly work through in that way. So, once the teachers sort of gain the confidence and gain this sort of, there's a change of a mindset of the teachers that was really needed to sort of get the ball rolling. And already now, the teachers I work with closely they're really now thinking, oh, I could use this tool, I could do this tool, I could do this tool. So, for example, Google Sites. Instead of writing a fat file on a celebrity, the children would create a Google site about the celebrity, and suddenly the engagement levels of the children will go through the roof, and the quality of work goes up with that as well. So once all the G Suite was embedded in the classroom, children using it constantly every day, it runs so smoothly then to the remote learning. Google Classroom, everything's set up, in that way. So this is sort of a setup now of our home learning. So every Monday, we will set the tasks for the children to complete, with instructions. Sometimes videos will be added to them as well, so children can access the videos. They can quickly see, what's required for the task, so they can work their way through it. Not all tasks require computer usage. I think that's important at the moment, because obviously every child's situation at home is different. What kit they got access to? They might only have a tablet. Mum might have a laptop that she's doing her work on, and the child might have some time. So we set all the tasks in Classroom, and the children upload the evidence in Classroom. And we've really had a strong now, that bit in between is the children have the option of how they do it. So sometimes you give a template, sometimes you give the guidance, but a lot of the time it's free choice. They can decide exactly how they want to present their work. Which the imagination, the creativity for the children, is great. So some child might make a Google site, while another child might draw a picture for the exact same work, and achieve the learning objective of that task. So the independent learning is a great sort of benefit to the G Suite tools. Teacher feedback is always provided, again, in Classroom. So once the assignment comes in or the questions are asked, everything is kept in Classroom. So it keeps it organized, it keeps it tidy. We haven't got emails coming, we haven't got different avenues and different questions from different places. Everything's in Classroom, so everyone knows where to go, everyone knows where to get the answers, etc. And we do that promptly, because again, we don't know when the children are online. We don't know how, when they're going to access it. So being able to answer their queries as quickly as possible helps with that learning process to continue as well. And then collaboration, that is still continuing. So every week we set a collaboration task for them, which I'll show shortly. So here's some examples now of some home learning sort of tasks which have taken place. So the top one here, so the task was around reading Harry Potter. They had to read chapters 1 to 5 and then present Diagon Alley, a map of Diagon Alley, and include the information that was shared in the text. So one child decided to do a picture, labeled it perfectly. Another child on Minecraft decided to build Diagon Alley and then screenshotted his Diagon Alley into Google Slides with a clear annotation discussing exactly what is included in each slide. And then another example, Fantastic Beasts. They had to create a sort of character. Again, one child created a model, where another child drew a picture with a detailed writing explaining the task. So it just gives that children the opportunity to work independently and sort of come up with their own ideas. We then do a weekly collaboration task. So up at Key Stage 2, there's 150 children have access to the one Google slide. So very quickly, that can become very, very chaotic very quickly. But the children have that sort of awareness and digital awareness of how that looks, and how to treat that sort of slide. And so they get a task. So each week, they will upload photographs or do something on individual slides, and that becomes one big long slide deck for the children to be able to see. So this is one example. Thank you to key workers. So all the children in their own way sort of created their own slide to present their way of saying thank you to key workers and sort of just a bit of appreciation. This week is about cooking. So they're creating recipes or sharing pictures of meals that they've prepared at home. So it keeps that engagement going. It keeps that the collaboration and keeps those digital skills ticking over that are so important to the children. And finally, then at home, so we've sort of created our own Google site as a school. One of the teachers sort of took it upon herself to build the Google site, and we're sharing pictures of the children and what sort of work they're doing at home. So it's updated on a weekly basis, sharing work, sharing home learning links so they can access different bits of information, and just sort of So it keeps that learning going, and it keeps the children involved in the learning process. And, so because we don't know how long it's going to continue for, so, the age of G Suite is allowing that process to continue. So hopefully that gives you guys a bit of an overview of Henko Primary's use of G Suite, especially with home learning. And any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So thank you, Kiri.
Thank you so much, both. That was great. And I have to admit, we got really excited in the background here, Beth, Sky and I, who got really excited about the fact there was so much Harry Potter love going on in your resources.
Yeah,
and we got really carried away in our little
work on Harry Potter.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. And I think just what I really liked that your school story highlighted was all the versatility around the way that you're delivering like a plethora of different things using G Suite tools and how you're continuing learning right now. So yeah, just really thank you so much for sharing. I don't think we have an awful lot of questions, and we are kind of nearly coming up to time, but I guess a question for me that is non-Harry Potter related, although I'd love to ask you what house you're in, is basically, if, considering that you guys have been on this journey for a little while now, and obviously you've talked to how this has helped you in this current situation, if you were to give a piece of advice to someone watching today who's maybe brand new to it or is just kind of getting started out, what would that be? And maybe even like kind of what Google tool would you say to start with, maybe would be a good way to kind of think about that. I'll pass it over to you first, Adam.
Okay. I should have said this at the start, really, because I think this one of the reasons why we've had such successful buy-in is just having a go in a low-pressure environment. Encourage staff just to have a little play around with things, because actually, you look at kind of the options out there, if you like, and like any school, we've got lots of adults, and there is a variance in ICT expertise for definite, but actually, the majority of the tools are easy to use, and I'm not a technically ICT gifted person, so I can say that hand on heart. Lots of the things, because of the professional learning that sits alongside it, and you can go and find out stuff for yourself, actually, by just having a play around with certain tools, it's quite easy to pick up little shortcuts, little hints, little tips. So more generally, I think why it's been successful for us has been that we've done it in a kind of low pressure environment, but likewise the big selling point is the reduction in workload, and that might lead us to think about if there were one particular app that's been successful. Like I'd probably, to start, I'd just say Team Drive, the Google Drive, to start our collaborative planning, sharing of resources, things like individual development plans for children, reading records. Now, all of a sudden, if we'd have gone back 2 years and some of the time that we were wasting on paper-based documents and where we're at now and how staff have embraced that because of the time it's saved. Bryn, you might have other ideas, because I know lots of the apps have saved us time and reduced workload. But I'd say as a start of a 10, simply Google Drive and staff collaborating has been huge for us in such a big staff team.
Awesome. And Bryn, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Adam stole my one. The collaboration part is sort of the big selling point of it, and that saving teachers time sort of aspect is, it's the biggest selling point for G Suite, in my opinion, because it's what makes it so great. The teacher buy-in, it comes from this saving time. Teachers get introduced to so many different tools, and and they are daunting for some teachers. But when they start seeing that A, it's so simple to use, and B, it saves them a lot of time and sort of streamlines processes, the buy-in is automatic. So they're already willing to do that way. So yeah, definitely the drive of collaboration. Google Classroom, definitely. As a classroom teacher, getting that Google Classroom set up, get it working properly. No more walking home with huge stacks of 30 books to work through. I have a dog as well, so I love walking the dog, and I will mark some work walking the dog, on the phone that way quickly, because it's sort of, it's so simple and works, on so many different platforms. So
can I just give one more example? I know we're running out of time. We used to, our family engagement officer used to issue about 450 paper-based questionnaires during parents' evening, and then she'd create this gigantic tally chart where she'd be for hour upon hour putting together the results. And when Bryn first introduced Julie to Google Forms, it was like the biggest revolution, if you like, in her life she'd ever seen, because all of a sudden the Google Form parental questionnaire was not only created instantly, but the results were instant as well. So that's just another snippet of how we've used Google Forms, I suppose, within school.
Yeah.
So I wanted to throw that one in.
Yeah, and I think we can bring Beth back in, but I think just to kind of reiterate the simplicity of being able to collate information so quickly and easily, doing that online is so simple. And I think something like Google Forms is a great example of how you might do that in different circumstances, right? Not just for data collection, but also from results of quizzes or an assessment. So
we've just issued the parents questionnaire about our home learning, about Google Classroom. We had over 270 responses. So that goes to show that even in these times, we're still getting buy-in because of the simplicity of the platform.
And I think there's something about being sent a link, right? It's really easy just to open a link and click a few buttons, then have to the student has to remember to give that bit of paper, or it has to be posted out, and then you have to remind them to collect it. And it's so much.
We found Forms was a great tool as well. When you were doing whole school training, every single kind of person, every stakeholder sees the value in it. So, the governors understood that they could fill out a form quickly, or if they wanted to get parent, response on something, they could send out a form quickly. The admin staff, when they realized that they wouldn't have to sit there with a stack of paper forms that had been cut, and everybody realized that it could work for them, which means then you've got a whole team ethos of people who want to learn more about G Suite.
Yeah, definitely agree. Great. So definitely one of the first ones I think that people get really hooked into, and you're right, it's because it's a whole school approach. Awesome. Okay, well, that's all we have time for today. With that, I'd just like to say thank you so much for sharing your stories today. I think it was just, obviously this is available to watch back, so if anyone watching wants to share, please do share with colleagues, and you can always watch this back if you want to head back over to Beth's training to learn a little bit more about how you can use the tools for assessment and feedback. So thank you to Bryn and Adam, and also thank you to Beth for joining us again today. We have a load more webinars coming up next week, so make sure you tune in, and please can you give us some feedback? We've just posted in the comments. It's great to get your feedback